Hey, everybody. Happy Thursday and welcome back to the stream. I'm super happy to be back with you guys this afternoon. Yesterday, I was feeling really under the weather, and if you have been listening this week, you'll know that my dog had a big surgery on Monday, so she was feeling really under the weather. She's sleeping on my couch in my studio over there in her new donut. We have replaced the cone of shame with a blow-up donut that goes around her neck, so she's actually sleeping now, which is better news, huh? Isn't that right, Libby girl? You're a good dog. Thank you guys so much for your prayers and keeping us in your thoughts when we were both really under the weather yesterday, but I am on the mend and excited to be streaming with you guys today for a double header. So this is an extra long stream, which I'm really excited about. If you have to go early or whatever, no worries at all. You can always come back and rewatch anything that you might miss, but excited to be spending our afternoon together. Today is a fantastic day to fight for life, in the words of Dr. Derek Shepard McDreamy in Grey's Anatomy before the show just got way too unwatchable politically, in my opinion. It's a beautiful day to save lives, and we are talking on the stream today about how American culture has so fundamentally devalued human life that we're seeing implications everywhere through massively high, unprecedented rates of suicide in our generation and the mental health crisis that we're dealing with, all the way through new propositions for artificial wombs happening in America. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. If you guys are new around here and or are not new around here but want to say hi, drop your name and where you're watching from in our live chat because it's super fun for us to get to know you a little bit better. These streams are truly live, meaning it is 3:09 p.m. and we are here in real time talking with you guys, and I want to get to know as many of you as possible. So utilize our live chat feature throughout the stream today to let us know if you agree with anything that we say, if you disagree with anything that we say, or if you just want to make a new friend and get to know some people better. We're going to kick things off for the stream saying hi to some people in the live chat, but first want to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor of the stream, our friends over at Nori, who I've talked about a little bit before, but I absolutely adore, and I know that you guys will as well. I am super excited to be working with Nori this fall, delivering the highest quality and most accessible microbiome products and solutions on the market. You guys know I've been kind of on this long journey over the last several months, detoxing everything in my life, from the food that I eat to the clothes that I wear, but a huge part of my detox journey has also been about me and what's happening inside my body. So taking Nori's products means that I am taking vitamins and supplements with zero additives that are made here in the US of A and are ingredients backed by science. I, for one, love their women's health probiotic, their digestive health supplement, and my personal favorite product of theirs is their signature Stay Well product. That's kind of like an emergency packet. You just pour it in a glass of water and you stir it all up. They have a passion fruit flavor and a lemonade flavor, and the lemonade one is chef's kiss, absolutely amazing. It provides support at the exact same time to my immune system and my microbiome all at once. If you guys get sick a lot or you travel a lot like me and you're constantly on the go, Stay Well from Nori will absolutely help you stay healthy while you are on the road. You can grab your first Nori product from the link that I just dropped in our live chat and use code Isabel20 for a 20% off discount on your order. And don't forget, it takes guts to feel good, just like it takes guts to tell the truth always, which is what we do here on these live streams. All right, let's kick things off by saying hi to some people in our live chat before we jump into today's content. Alexandra, always queen. You are always first up in our YouTube chat, and we love to see it. Happy Thursday. I hope you and Libby are feeling better. Thank you, Alexandra. Daloon and Dutch Canadian and Nintendo Fan are watching. Nintendo Fan asks, how is Libby? Is she recovering well? She is. Libby is my corgi, my bestest friend, my little sidekick, the Robin to my Batman. She is fast asleep in her donut right now. Low-key, I kind of wish we had implemented the corgi cam for today because it's very cute, and she is sleeping right across the way over there very sweetly. She's doing okay. She had a really rough day yesterday, but I think she is recovering pretty well. She's got a gnarly big incision on her leg from her surgery, but she is playful and still wanting to go on walks and still her zoomy happy self. Thank you for asking. Los Ravosa is here and Joshua is here. Spellbound Bear is watching on YouTube. We've got P Blaster, Total Package, Dan Phoenix, and Brown Rice watching on YouTube. John Carver's watching from Delaware. I've been to your state one time for about 16 hours for a DNC event many years ago, but would love to go back, John, to Delaware, and more watching on YouTube. Over on Rumble, John Best and the Shadow Band and Micah are kicking things off in our Rumble chat. Love to see Rumble continue to grow. And if you guys haven't already hit that follow button on Rumble, please do so. We love seeing our community grow over there. Over on Getter, Nitty Witty, Gary Upchurch, and more are in our chat. And in locals, we've got the whole gang. Mountain Lover says, my dog now has the donut of shame instead of the cone of shame. Very sad, but you're not wrong. Alex Padron, Tito, Becca, Crazy Cat Lady, and more. You guys, I'm so happy to see you. It is the weirdest, saddest thing when I take a day off of streaming because I'm so used to spending so much time with you every day and like hanging out and getting to know you guys. It's wild to me that I talk to you guys more, especially all of you that tune in every single day, more than like my siblings. I don't even talk to my siblings every single day anymore. Life is crazy that way. Did you ever see that graph, by the way? Maybe we'll talk about this tomorrow. Did you ever see that graph of like time spent with people in different phases of your life? And it's like parents and siblings immediately go down after age 18 to like basically nothing, or it spikes once a year. Your spouse goes all the way up and then you spend like the rest of your life with them. Your kids, you might get 18 years with pretty consistently, but I feel like the graph of me spending time with you guys is just like the curve, the exponential curve, and then it just stays there at the top. I love that I get to spend several hours with you every single day, and even though we are through a screen, it is very fun getting to know you guys better with every passing stream. Speaking of getting to know each other better, after the stream, we're going to jump over to Locals and do our post-stream Q&A like we always do, and we've got some exciting content coming to Locals tonight. First, a new episode of our dating series, Outdated. I'm reacting to some things that were said on the Whatever podcast from our amazing friend Candace Owens. If you guys watched that episode of the Whatever podcast, crazy stuff, but otherwise excited to be reacting to that for our episode of Outdated tonight. And we also have a new episode of our faith-based series, Domus, tonight, which I'm very excited about as well. We are talking about religion and faith a little bit on the stream today, which will be great. I know we don't usually talk about that in depth on the stream, but if dating and faith are things that you're looking for more content from me on, Locals is the place to be. And once we hit 100 supporters on Locals, we're at 57 right now, so we're growing. We're going to try to schedule an in-person meetup, IRL. So if you guys want to be a part of that, you have to be part of our Locals community, isabelbrown.locals.com, and we'll jump over there for our post-stream Q&A at the end of the stream as well. Okay. I think that's it. Nope, there's one more big announcement before we jump in. Tomorrow on the stream, live, I'm going to be making a really exciting big announcement, and I want all of you there. So if you already have the time blocked off for the stream tomorrow, great. If you weren't planning on tuning in tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, I am making a huge announcement on the stream. Finally, it has been months, like a year actually, of me waiting to give you this announcement, and I'm stoked that the day is finally here. So tomorrow, big announcement coming, and I can't wait to share all of it with you guys. That's all I'm going to say for now today, though. Okay, you guys, let's jump right in. I mentioned that today's stream really has a common theme throughout both of the major topics that I want us to cover, but that theme is really becoming more apparent to me with every passing day, and that is American culture and Western culture in general. If you're watching from Europe or Canada or Australia or New Zealand, I know we have a lot of you guys. No matter where you're watching from, I think you can relate. Western culture has really been intent, more so in the last 3 years than at any other point during my lifetime, on devaluing human life. Obviously, we see that through the abortion industry, and I hear more about that on college campuses and on social media than maybe any other realm of culture or society. But I think this is now becoming a universal theme that can be applied to every part of our culture and society. We have such little value for ourselves that I actually hear My peers and people my siblings' age, when I go speak on college campuses, say that they wish they had been aborted because they don't value their own life and wish that they never had been born in the first place. Suicide rates are climbing dramatically and hitting all-time highs in the United States of America, while our generation is struggling with the biggest mental health crisis the world has ever seen, with record high rates of anxiety, depression, suicidation, substance abuse, and more. We have such little regard for human life that we know for a fact America has become one of the largest consumers of child pornography and human trafficking, especially sex trafficking of minors, and very few people are willing to speak out against it. We've talked about that quite a bit on the stream. We certainly don't value our health or nutrition, which we've talked a lot about lately, because we don't value human life and wanting to preserve and protect it as much as humanly possible. And we really don't value women at all, which is why we're seeing the overt erasure of mothers, of motherhood, of giving birth to your own baby, etc. Men as well, in a different context. I think we've kind of gone on the other side now of erasing men from society, which is really, really sad. But right now we're seeing the overt erasure of women in society. And today I want us to zoom in on two subtopics with this devaluing of life that I'm seeing be very, very concerning in 2023 and beyond. And mostly, I want to use this stream as an opportunity to tell you that if you are struggling, if this is a hard time for you, if this is really difficult or heavy to wrap your brain and your heart around every single day, with this devaluing of life, with our loss of humanity for one another, with the extreme lack of empathy that we have continued to progress into the 2020s with, you are not alone. And we are here to support you. We're here to build a sense of community. And we're here to try to make this world a little less broken with every passing day. First, by telling the truth, but also to remind you that we are worth more. We are worth more than the brokenness of our culture. We are worth more than the lies that are slowly becoming truth because of the loudest voices in media and in politics and in culture. And we are certainly worth more than the shallow life that we are trying to pretend is normal or wanting to pretend is normal in society today. It starts with us being willing to talk about it, though, and bring some of that darkness into the light. And the first thing that I really want us to focus on and talk about is suicide. It's an uncomfortable topic, so if you want to leave for a little while and this is maybe something that you're not really comfortable talking about, please feel free to do so. In about 40 minutes, we're going to come back and talk about the artificial wombs subject, so you're not going to miss much if you leave and come back, but I do hope that you will stay because suicide is slowly becoming more and more normal with our generation for all of the wrong reasons. And I think we can ask ourselves why and try to speculate why, but generally speaking, all centers around the reality that our culture is very broken, that we lack a sense of purpose, and that we are attacking the value of life and stripping hope away from our generation. I have lost a few people in my life to suicide, but namely one very, very close family friend who is my sister's age. I had watched her grow up ever since she was yay big and little teeny tiny, one of our dearest friends from summer camp growing up, and always was this ray of sunshine in our life, in our friends' lives, was somebody that we looked forward to seeing every few months and always tried to visit, talked to all the time, like literally at least 3-4 times a month, even though we lived on opposite sides of the country and only got to spend time together in person every few months. But she unfortunately took her own life about 2 weeks before her 16th birthday. And this was right around the time that my baby sister was turning 16 and was absolutely devastating. It was earth-shattering when we lost our very sweet friend JoJo to suicide. This would have been my sophomore or junior year of college, and to this day is an anniversary that's really, really difficult. Ooh, sorry, I'm getting emotional. Really, really difficult for our family to celebrate and think about. Amazingly, JoJo's legacy is so strong. She was a summer camp kid just like us growing up, and our former camp director and her parents started a new summer camp called Camp JoJo in her legacy and in her memory to help children and teenagers who are struggling with their mental health to remember that there's still something worth looking forward to. There's still something worth being joyful and happy about. And suicide is not the answer. And I've been really happy as I've seen suicide become more and more normal in our generation. More and more nonprofits pop up, different activism organizations, different content creators, and just people with influence be willing to talk about suicide. Because the really sad reality is that I think in many ways our culture pretends like we know there is a mental health crisis going on. We pretend like we know people are struggling. We pretend like we know our culture is broken for young people, but very few people are willing to actually stand up and do something about it and create the resources that need to exist for people to stay here. And I wish more than anything in the entire world that JoJo was still with us. I know many of you probably know someone in your own personal life that has attempted to take their own life or has been successful in taking their own life, but if you are experiencing any of those feelings yourselves, just know you are not alone, and we are here to be a sense of community for you. And if you've already lost someone to suicide, you're also not alone there. I can absolutely empathize with what that feels like and know how truly devastating that feels. But all of that to be said, I think there's a million reasons why our culture is normalizing suicide. And we're going to be joined in just a few minutes by my amazing friend, Jacob Coyne, who is the director of a Christian mental health nonprofit and organization called Stay Here, which is aiming and working every day to make Gen Z suicide free. But first, I just want to update you on like what's going on, why I think this is happening, and help you be more aware of how truly widespread and terrible this problem has become. Literally just a few weeks ago, NBC News put out a new updated sense of statistics and data on the issue of suicide in America. It turns out that suicides in the United States reached an all-time high in 2022, according to CDC data. Almost 50,000 people in our country alone took their own lives last year, which was a 3% increase from 2021. And if you look at the data over the last decade, it's really alarming and crazy to realize how bad this problem truly is becoming, that we are often so unwilling to confront or talk about. From 2011 to 2022, over 500,000 people in the United States of America alone were lost to suicide, with 2022 last year showing the highest number of deaths on record. Within this period, the adjusted suicide rate increased by 16%. Recognizing the mounting mental health crisis and demand for accessible crisis care, the federal government rolled something out last July. I don't even know if you guys are even familiar with this, which is a new national crisis hotline number called 988. Instead of calling 911, you can call 988. It connects callers who are suicidal to people who can be a crisis counselor for them at 200 plus call centers, which is really phenomenal. I think this is a very, very helpful tool that people can be using. Suicide deaths slowed down in 2019 and 2020, but they rapidly began to increase again in 2021 and 2022. They say the cause of the recent rises in suicide is pretty unclear, but I think all of us can probably put some puzzle pieces together for just how bad things have gotten. We've driven all of our culture behind a screen. Everything is edited and artificial and simulated. Virtual reality has become far preferable to actual reality. Our intimacy and our dating experiences and our friendships are all happening on here rather than a real sense of community. We've locked people inside their homes for the last several years, told them they can't go to their jobs, told them they can't have Thanksgiving dinner with their extended family. We've taken away their small businesses. We've said they can't go to church. It's hardly surprising to me that there was such a massive spike in 2021 and 2022, but people are really, really struggling. And in particular, Gen Z is really, really struggling. Suicide deaths in particular are increasing the fastest among people of color, younger people, and people who live in rural areas, with many groups seeing increases of 30% or more from 2011 to 2021. Especially as our culture almost glorifies suicide in many ways and makes TV shows about it and writes hit books about it, I think it's obvious that in some ways our culture kind of celebrates it. And we're going to talk about that with Jacob here in just a little bit, but it is devastatingly sad that young people are the easiest to pinpoint demographic for a rapid, alarming rise in wanting to take our own lives. In 2021, for example, 1 in 3 teenage girls seriously contemplated taking her own life. 1 in 3. So if you are a parent of a teenage girl, statistically, that's probably something that her or her peers are thinking about. But again, like I said, our culture is almost like willing to use this as a talking point, but very few people are actually willing to do something about it, to fight for life, and to remind our peers in our generation that it is still worth staying here. There is always reason to have hope, and there is always reason to keep fighting. Perhaps one of the biggest areas where there seems to be a gap in that communication, in my opinion, is in religious circles and in the Christian community and church in particular. Maybe suicide is just still such an uncomfortable topic, and we don't want to admit that it is happening right before our very eyes. We don't want to admit that it's impacting families. We don't want to ruffle any feathers by bringing this subject up because it's really difficult to talk about. But our unwillingness to talk about it is what continues to allow it to become more normal. It's just like any other dark cultural issue we are dealing with today. The more we ignore it and the more we refuse to give it a platform, the more it continues to grow and gestate behind the scenes and become more normal until it's forever changed our culture and society. And there are many incredible content creators, pastors, authors, people in the Christian community and Christian world who are speaking up about it, thank goodness. But it's time now more than ever for the church to take leadership on this issue from a cultural perspective and remind people where our identity truly is and why there is always a reason to have hope. I am so excited to be joined by my friend Jacob Coyne for our conversation on the stream today. He is the director of an organization called Stay Here, which provides mental health resources and training from a Christian perspective to handle the issue of suicide in America today. And he also recently just had his book called Stay Here released on Amazon and everywhere else you can buy books a couple of weeks ago. On September 5th. He has over 1.3 million followers on TikTok and many other followers on other social media platforms. And God is absolutely using Jacob for all of the right reasons to help make Gen Z suicide free. He is a very busy man trying to save as many people's lives as humanly possible. So we actually sat down a little while ago this morning to talk for about 30 minutes. So this next conversation is pre-recorded, but I'll be hanging out in the live chat to talk with you guys and answer any questions that you might have or provide links for where you can find out more about Jacob and Stay Here. But without further ado, please join me in welcoming the amazing, the inspiring, the very incredible Jacob Coyne to the stream. Jacob, thank you so much for joining us on the stream. You've been somebody that I've been following with your content for a really long time between you as a creator and your organization. But for those who might not be familiar with you, can you give us a brief introduction into who you are?
For sure. Yeah, my name is Jacob Coyne, and I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. I'm married to an amazing woman named Mariah, and we have 4 daughters together here in Johnson City, Tennessee. And I'm a Christian content creator. I'm a preacher. I travel and preach. And I lead a nonprofit organization called Stay Here. And we started Stay Here in 2020, right before the pandemic and everyone got locked in. So what Stay Here is, it's a suicide prevention organization, and we have a crazy vision that Gen Z will be suicide free. And we're doing everything we can to stop suicide, to change suicide rates. And I never would have imagined leading a mental health organization. I had planned on being a pastor since I got saved when I was 16 years old. But there's been so many losses in my life where I couldn't not do something about it. So that's why we started Stay Here, is out of a place of pain. I don't think many people wake up and they're just like, I want to fight for suicide prevention today. That's a calling on my life. Usually the people that, go for a career in suicide prevention, loss is near to them. So that's a little brief intro about me.
Yeah, so I love that because sometimes God really just throws our path way off what we ever thought we were going to do, but it ends up being exactly where we need to go. We talk a lot about that on our stream with a lot of our guests, but I've been so profoundly inspired by the content that you guys are making tailored to social media because, let's face it, that's where our generation lives and spends all of our time. Talking about mental health and suicide specifically from a faith-based perspective, I think there's a huge gap in that conversation, tying things back to the church and to Christianity. So really, what inspired you to want to do that in the first place?
Yeah, I got inspired to do it in the first place because I lost a pastor friend to suicide on Suicide Prevention Day, September 10th, 2019. Wow. His name was Jared Wilson. and he had an amazing wife and children of his own. He was on staff at Harvest OC, Greg Laurie's church. Um, and when he took his life, that was kind of the final straw for me. Jared's not the only pastor that I know that's taken their own life. And when pastors are dying by suicide, you know that there is a problem. There's a major issue. It's not just in the world, it's in the church. And, when you study church history, the church invented the hospital, the church invented healthcare. So now, here in 2023, church and mental health care, it's almost non-existent. We're so far behind. And I think that the church should be leading the charge with mental health care, because if we don't, we're just going to lose this generation to all these crazy ideologies. I mean, if you just look on TikTok and on Instagram, when someone takes their life, um, the comments are crazy. It's like, fly high, brother. Proud of you. You made the right decision. You did a good thing. You did everything you could. At this point right now in our culture, people are beginning to celebrate the choice to end your own life by suicide. That's a major issue. So the church needs to pick up the pace and speak out about this. And it really hit home for me, besides losing Jared Wilson to suicide, with my own wife and I, when we've had miscarriages. Unfortunately, we've had a few miscarriages. And we've also struggled with grief many times, with losing family members and friends to suicide and drug overdoses. So to be a pastor and dealing with grief of loss and your own anxiety, your own sadness, your own depression as a pastor, it felt so scary to reach out to the other staff members. And I know that if you're a believer listening to this, if you're a pastor listening to this, you've probably felt the same way. How in the world do I reach out to my other staff? How in the world do I reach out for prayer? I'm the person that's supposed to preach. I'm the person that's supposed to pray. I'm the person that's supposed to counsel everybody else. Why should I need counseling? In fact, my first time going into a Christian counselor's office, my face was beet red. I was so embarrassed to be there. I sit down and I just start crying. And she's like, "You're so ready for this. I'm so proud of you." And I was like, "No, I'm crying because I'm so embarrassed that I'm here in this office right now. What am I doing here?" Because the stigma in the church with mental health is, you got to do it all on your own. If you have depression or anxiety, most people think it's because you didn't pray enough, you didn't fast enough, you didn't quote scripture enough. It's your issue, brother. It's your issue, sister. Figure it out. And that's so messed up. We're supposed to fight the good fight together. So the church should be the best at that. We're the best at community. And here's something really cool. So Yale just did a study on the effects of mental health and community, and they started to study church attendance. This is just from last year. So Yale came out with this report, and they've proven that if you attend church, you are far less likely to end your life by suicide. You're far less likely to struggle with depression, anxiety, or drug abuse. So that's a huge plus with church attendance. We just need to speak out about this more. I think so many people are struggling silently in pews because they don't have opportunities to confess this. It says in James 5:16 that if we confess our sins one to another, we can have someone pray for us, lay hands on us, that we might be healed. So I'm not saying that anxiety is a sin, but there's a principle there. If you confess to somebody else, "Man, I'm struggling with anxiety, I'm struggling with depression," the church is the best weapon you have against that. You have so many people that are willing to pray for you, to walk through this thing with you. But I think that so many of us are afraid to actually step out and confess it because there is that stigma. So that's what we want to do, is stay here. We want to break that stigma, and we want to encourage the church to speak out louder against suicide and mental illness.
Both inside and outside the church, from a religious and secular perspective, how do you think we got here in 2023 that suicide is almost being celebrated and that we've really devalued the human experience and human life so much that death is a more preferable alternative than protecting life?
Yeah. Well, I think it's how exposed we are to death in media, and it's romanticized. And I think also Along with social media intake, I'm sure you know this, Gen Z spends on average about 8 hours a day watching video content, not just screen time. It's on average 8 hours a day watching videos. So I think that we have such an issue with dopamine, and in every person in our nature, there's a need to feel loved, to feel accepted, and celebrated. So sadly, suicide and death, it gets celebrated. It's exposed. There's funerals. There's memorials. Your face is on a screen. So if some people are thinking, man, I'm not getting celebrated anywhere else. Maybe if I do this, people will finally celebrate me and remember me. That's what's going on in people's minds right now. And I think that we are so messed up chemically because of all this social media that we're consuming. And it's tough because I am a social media content creator, and our big focus with Stay Here is reaching people, but we've got to be where people are. Gen Z is online. So instead of watching this bad content that's exposing them to depression and anxiety and drug abuse and sex, we want to produce content that is good, content that saves lives. And that's what we've seen. We have literally seen people watch a video of ours on the day they were going to end their life, and they have chosen to stay. Like literally minutes before they're going to take their life, they've chosen to stay here, which is just incredible.
That is so powerful, and I think speaks volumes to the fact that if you want to change culture, you have to be willing to go where culture is, right? We get
Yeah.
a lot of backlash in the political world, in the church world, for being on platforms that have such negative content and are driving people so far off the edge into anxiety and depression. But you can never expect to change things if you're not willing to be the odd one out. Have you ever
Right.
had any backlash or people say that this isn't a good idea for you to work through the medium of social media?
Oh, all the time, especially especially with mental health. I mean, in the Christian world, I've had so many people say, you just need to preach the simple gospel. Don't bring up anxiety and depression. Don't do this. And why are you doing so much online? Get people to meet in public. And I think that yes, I want to get people to meet in public, obviously. But again, with what you were just saying, it's where people are, and you got to meet them where they are. So yeah, there has been that pushback. But if you read the Bible, if you look at the life of Jesus, a third of Jesus's ministry was reaching out to the downtrodden, to the depressed, to the hurting, to the broken. A third of Jesus' miracles were deliverance. Those are people with internal issues that cannot be solved without the presence of Jesus Christ. So Jesus is very much involved with people's mental health, and we shouldn't have to wait to go to heaven to be free. Jesus came to set us free right here and right now. That's why he died on the cross. That's why he rose again, to give us a brand new life. The Bible says, if anyone's in Christ Jesus, he's a new creation. The old is gone, the new has come. Jesus can make you new. We don't have to live a life full of brokenness and depression. And then finally, when we pass away, we're all happy, we're all full of joy in heaven. No, Jesus came to bring heaven to earth. There's no depression, there's no anxiety in heaven, and there's no brokenness in heaven. Experience that right here and right now through Jesus.
Ugh, amen. So beautiful. I find it so ironic in many ways that you founded your organization right before the whole world completely changed. What a
Yeah.
God thing. Have you noticed since lockdowns and since our culture really flipped upside down in 2020 that this problem has become exacerbated for our generation?
Yeah, it's the biggest issue. It's the isolation, and I think that we're still experiencing that. We're just a couple of years out of 2020, but there's a thing called PTSD, and so many people are experiencing that. I mean, social anxiety has increased hundreds of times since before 2019 and 2020. People are still trying to figure out how to talk to people, how to relate to people, how to listen to people, because of what we just experienced over the last couple of years. So yeah, that's the biggest reason for the spike in mental illness. It's the isolation that we experience, the fear we all experience, but we also have an opportunity to overcome this. This is something that could be a gift for this generation. There's someone that I really look up to named Viktor Frankl. He's a Holocaust survivor. And his whole thing was he wanted to prevent suicide within Auschwitz. He believed that he can stop anybody from taking their own life. And the way he did that was remember your purpose. Remember who you were before this. Remember who you're supposed to be. And then think about your own life. You're the only person experiencing your own story right here in this concentration camp. You need to get out of this place so that you can tell your story to the world. And I think that there's something so powerful about that, of taking responsibility for your own situation, your own pain that you're in, and challenging yourself to get out of that so that you can tell your story, to overcome the adversity. I think it's so powerful. His whole belief was that he can see entire cities and nations suicide free. And that's what we're running with. We believe that if we can show people reasons to live, if we can give people a purpose, they will choose to live and they will choose to cancel those suicide plans.
Where do you think our culture has encouraged us to be devoid of purpose? I think that word is so powerful and one that we don't talk about nearly enough, but it kind of feels like, at least in my opinion, Western culture and Western civilization lately has been encouraging you to run away from purpose. Why do you think that is?
Because purpose scares people. It's powerful. It's a powerful thing. You know, when people know their purpose, they can change the world. They could change lives. And I think, there's a lot of other powers that be that don't want us to live in our purpose and be powerful people with a voice, because they want us to get in line and follow the order, follow the system, follow everybody else. In another nation, it's called tall poppy syndrome. And what that means is when there's another poppy seed or a poppy leaf that's growing above everybody else, there's always somebody that's going to cut that thing down to make everything equal. I mean, right now I've got someone mowing my lawn outside, and you can hear it on the street. And everything's about to be equal. It wasn't like that before. Some of the crabgrass outside in my front lawn was bigger than the rest. But sooner or later, it's all going to be equal. And I think that that's what, I don't know who's the powers that be that want it like that. But when someone starts to grow above other people, other people want to cut that person down. Don't let that happen to you. We are called to have a voice. We're called to stand up. We're called to stand out. We're called to change lives. You only have one life to live. And there's so many people that need to hear your voice. There's so many people that need to hear your story. So that's the way I live my life. I'm not going to let people tear down what God wants to build up.
Well said. I read a statistic the other day that I would love to get your take on, because I think it's just really fascinating to think about, that in 2021, 1 in 3 teenage girls in America seriously contemplated taking her own life. And for the first time ever, we're seeing young women, more than young men, gravitate towards suicide as an option to alleviate whatever is going on culturally in America today through the female lens. Why do you think we're seeing that shift? It used to always be that men took their own lives far more than women. So this is a really unique cultural shift.
Yeah, I read that stat, and it said that the young women are thinking more of suicide and self-harm because of fear. They're afraid of being harmed. They're afraid of men. And I think that that's the pornification of our culture. I mean, anytime you log on to social media, on any of the apps, you're seeing people celebrate their OnlyFans accounts, and it's being celebrated. And they're like, especially on TikTok, it's like, there are so many people that are like, I'm broke. I think I'm just going to start this. I'm going to start my own account and sell pictures of myself. I'm going to sell, or they just make jokes about it. I'm going to sell feet pics of myself because I'm broke. I'm like, do you realize how damaging that is to you? And sadly, this is because of men. It's not women's fault. It's because this is where the hunger is. There's so many men. There are millions of men out there that are perpetuating this because of their lust, because of their own hunger for this type of content. And because there is a demand for it, there's going to be a supply for it. So I'm not going to blame women at all for this. This is a men issue. It's the way, it's the message that men are preaching. Women, we want this. We want this content. We'll pay for this. And I think that there needs to be a massive revival in the hearts of men, because this is what men are paying for. This is what they're searching. It's what they're looking for. And men need to step up and be men of God and marry one woman, raise a family of kids, and take care of their family and don't run out on them. So we're seeing such a mess in that culture right now with marriages. Um, and that's why we're seeing such an issue with women struggling with their own mental health and their own identity, because they're afraid of men. They're afraid of this culture that has been built online with pornography, OnlyFans, and the like.
I think it's interesting that most people probably wouldn't connect the dots in their own head between marriage rates or marriage success and women's mental health and what's happening in the porn industry. I'm kind of like that meme of the guy with the cork board and the red string, just like always
Yeah.
connecting things in terms of the conspiracy theory. But that's so true, that the way that we have destroyed really the institution of marriage and the institution of the family and packaged it as this horrible thing that's going to ruin your life, ultimately downstream trickles down into the mental health of the next generation who lack that solid role model or that solid image of what that can look like in their own life. What role do you think the church has to play for both young men and young women to embrace their identity given to them by God?
Yeah. I think that the church needs to really reach fathers. Like, we live in such a fatherless society, and if
Yeah, we
fathers
do.
up and be men, then fathers will raise amazing families. That's the model in the church. The men are supposed to be the head of the household, and in my house, it's all girls here in this house. I'm surprised you're not like yelling or something like that, or trying to get into this room right here. I'm at home right now in my office, but it's all girls. I've got a wife and 4 girls, and I know my role. I am here to bring identity to them. I am here to show them what kind of man they should marry by the model I leave in this house, the way I pursue my wife. And I'm getting all of this from God. I'm getting all of this from the church. So we're fortunate to be in a church that really focuses on the men's health here. We have men's prayer every Sunday at 7 a.m. before church, and it's almost awkward if you don't show up.
Hmm.
Like, there's like 150 men that show up to our men's prayer at
Wow.
7 in the morning, and church is at 10. So these men get up, go to pray for their wives and children. That's what we're doing. We're praying for our own families. And man, our church just feels like such a healthy church. It's like a divorce-free church. It feels like
Hmm.
it's an adult-free church, because all these men are like, we're not doing that here. We are focusing on raising our families God's way. So I think that the church, if you churches out there listening, pastors, build men up to be men of God that step up for their wives and children, and we're going to change culture, because that's just going to multiply. I know now that my 4 daughters, they're going to be looking for men of God that are going to take care of them. They're going to honor them. That are going to lift them up, raise them up. That are going to pour into them more purpose and more identity. And it's just going to be this amazing ripple effect of life. So I'm excited for the legacy I'm building. And that's what I want to see churches do all across America. We can't just have altar calls for people to come and accept Christ. We need to disciple people.
Hmm.
And I think that if we disciple people better, we're going to see a better culture.
Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about Stay Here as an organization and tangibly what you guys are doing to help people be more aware of how widespread the suicide problem is. Can you walk us through what the boots on the ground looks like for you guys?
Yeah, so we do social media campaigns, and then in-person campaigns, teaching, speaking, suicide prevention training. So I'll kind of just bullet point through all that stuff. We just did a campaign on September 10th for World Suicide Prevention Day, and it was in collaboration with a new nonprofit that started because of all of this called QB United. So it was 57 quarterbacks that are all on one video saying, "Stay here. We need you here. Your life matters," et cetera, et cetera. And this video was posted by over 80,000 people on World Suicide Prevention Day. We've reached over 200 million people with that message.
Wow.
And then we had a landing page with access to 988, Christian live chat, texting to 988, calls to 988, BetterHelp, free therapy, and then access to Stay Here's suicide prevention training. So we do campaigns like that. We want to reach the masses, but it's not just about online campaigns. So we have different speakers, including myself with Stay Here, where we go from business to business or church to church, whoever books us, or school assemblies. And we do Stay Here messages at assemblies. And then we train staff members with our suicide prevention training. It's like a 40-minute training. And we teach people how to spot the warning signs behind suicide, the risk factors. We get people up to date with current statistics just to keep them aware of how important and urgent this is, that we actually fight against suicide and mental illness. And then we teach people how to act, how to ask the question if someone is suicidal, how to ask them about it, and then how to convince them to stay here. And then T, how to take action. If someone says, yes, I am suicidal, I don't want to end my life, we teach people how to help that person get into therapy, get into the local church, how to keep that person accountable. What are the next steps? We've trained over 21,000 people with our ACTS training so far since 2021. And our goal, though, is 1 million people. We want to train 1 million people with this training. We want 10,000 churches involved with this. We want 10,000 schools to be Stay Here schools. So we have a long road ahead of us, but we really believe with this training, equipping people, not just a few speakers on our staff. We want to have 1 million people in this Stay Here army raised up. We really will see a decline in suicide rates.
You also just had a few days ago a book come out on September 5th called Stay Here, talking about the Christian perspective towards mental health. Tell us more about your book. That's so exciting.
I love the book so much. I really believe in it. The book just talks about how we started Stay Here and what we do with Stay Here, and then it goes through all the different topics: how to attack anxiety, how to overcome it, how to win the battle of depression, how to overcome trauma. If you have suicidal thoughts, what do you do with that? How do you overcome it? And then there's so many stories of Gen Z overcoming suicide and depression and self-harm. So the whole last chapter is Gen Z will be suicide free. And it's stories of people that we know that have canceled their suicide plans because of this ministry in one way or another. And these stories are just great stories. They're beautiful. This book came out on September 5th, and I really believe it's going to change a lot of lives because it's different just talking about mental health with Jesus involved, with scripture involved. I think it was honestly scary to talk about, to write about a book like this. There's the fear in your head of like, can I even do this? Because there's not a lot of mental health books out there that have the gospel of Jesus also in this book. So there weren't many people to like look up to be honest. But I'm out. We did it. The book is out, and I really believe it's going to change a lot of lives.
Well, fingers crossed for that and many prayers for that for sure, because I think that lack of the conversation tying the church back into mental health and suicide prevention is very much being filled with all of the work that you are doing. Speaking of that, you had a post on your Instagram a couple of days ago that I thought was so phenomenal, tying in stories from the Bible with people struggling with their mental health to what we're going through today. Is there a reason that you think the church has been so tiptoey around this issue? And where can we find inspiration in our legacy as the church to find strength to move forward?
Yeah, we tiptoe around this issue because, the church actually coined the phrase commit suicide. So that started from the church. And I think that because of that, there has been kind of that stigma of, I don't want to talk about this because this is a sin. We all think it's a sin. So let's just not talk about it. Let's not bring it up. But we need to move away from that, because in the Bible, there are multiple people that were about to end their own life by suicide, die by suicide. There, like Elijah, for example, he was asking God, take my life. Job, I wish I was miscarried, Job said. That's wild. Something like that. I've never said something like that in prayer. David, the Psalms of David, constantly depressed, constantly overwhelmed. Saul, Paul, the apostle, my goodness, so many times in the book of Acts where he's talking about, I'm overcome with sorrow upon sorrow, grief upon grief. And then even in Acts chapter 16, there's a story where Paul and Silas are in prison and they praise their way out of prison. This is such a crazy story. They're worshiping Jesus. They're shackled up. And all of a sudden, the shackles break. There's an earthquake in the jail cell. And what happens? The jail cells open up, and every single prisoner in that prison escaped. So
Hmm.
what does the jailer do? The person that's responsible, he grabs a sword and he says, "I'm going to kill myself right now." And Paul says, "Stop. Do not kill yourself. We're still here. Turn the lights on and see us. See us. We're here." Man, what if the church spoke like that? To all the people who are thinking of taking their own life, what if the church said, "Hey, we're still here. We're going to talk about this. We're going to turn the lights on about this subject. We're not going to keep it in the dark. We're right here. We're not going to run away like everybody else." That's the role of the church, to be here for people. And I think that we're stepping it up a lot. I'm so grateful for churches like Life Church, Craig Rochelle's church, speaking about it all the time. They're partnering with Stay Here. Gateway Church in the Dallas, Texas area, amazing church, Robert Morris. They've partnered with us. We've been able to train their staffs with this suicide prevention training, and there's so many more. So I am so optimistic and hopeful about the future of the church and how we respond to mental illness. It's going to be good.
Jacob, do you have any words of encouragement or community for people watching this right now who might be struggling with anxiety or depression or even suicidation themselves?
Yeah, we're here for you. We are absolutely here for you. And your story isn't over. You're not a burden. Please just choose to stay. And if you need help, if you need someone to talk to, all the resources you need are right on our website, stayhere.live. You've got free therapy, counseling that you can access. It's incredible. Like, where else can you find something like that? Free therapy, and it's amazing therapy. There's Christian therapists, and we've got BetterHelp, who's partnered with us to provide free therapy. And we've also partnered with the 24/7 Christian chat line called the Hope Line. So we have so many people that want to talk to you. Your story isn't burdensome. We are here to listen. And I would say to you, if you're struggling, you're not alone. I've been there too. There's so many people I know that look amazing on the outside on social media, so many influencers I know that have battled with anxiety and depression and self-hatred, and they have overcome. So there is no fight that you can't win if God's by your side. You just got to bring God into it, and then you'll get through it.
For those who might be looking for an opportunity to help and they're just really not sure where to start, where should they look first?
Yeah, we need so much help with this organization. So there are opportunities to volunteer for us. Again, it's stayhere.live. And then just the easiest way to help is donate to what we're doing. Donate to Stay Here. It's on our website. That would be the biggest thing. We're a bunch of volunteers. We're a new organization. We're 3 years young, and in the nonprofit world, it takes a while to fundraise. So a lot of us, we just care so much about you. We care so much about this generation that we're volunteering. I have volunteered for myself for this organization. I'm not even full time with Stay Here. We just care so much about this,
Mm.
willing to stop just because of money. But money does help us move the mission forward. So if you're watching this and you are inspired to help us stop suicide, or if you want to see more of what we've done and some of the fruit of what we've done, check out our website and just see the stories.
Jacob, last question for you because we know you're a very busy man helping so many people today. Where can people find you and your content, buy your book, and follow Stay Here as an organization on social media?
Yeah, find me on Instagram or TikTok or on YouTube. Just search my name, Jacob Coyne, and then Stay Here on all the platforms is Stay Here org on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube. And then my book is go on Amazon, write a review. That's the best place to go get it. So just search Jacob Coyne, Stay Here on Amazon, and go get a copy.
Incredible. Thank you so much. And God bless you for
Thanks
all
for
of the
having me.
work that you are doing. You are in all of our prayers in our live streaming community, and so excited to see how you continue to impact the world for the better.
Thanks so much. It means a lot to be here.
How great is he? Am I right? We love Jacob. He is so phenomenal, and I'm so grateful for the work that he is doing. Just bringing this conversation to the church and to a venue where it's really not happening enough, certainly not as much as it needs to be, is so meaningful and so impactful. I know there was a lot of great conversation I saw in the live chat throughout that conversation about people who feel like they're struggling themselves, or you're going through a really difficult period, I want you to know that you are not alone. I've said that probably 20 times already, but it's true. You are not alone. And something that I think we often forget in the community of the church is that this isn't even a new phenomenon. Experiencing difficulties with your mental health or going through times of trial or chapters that are really difficult in our lives, or frankly, even lifelong chapters and time periods that are really difficult in our lives, is not new. It often seems like it's new because of all of the newfound trials and confusion and lies becoming truth that we are experiencing in the 2020s. But as we kind of alluded to, and I'll pull up this post right here, people of God, God's chosen people in the Old Testament and the New Testament, have been struggling with their mental health throughout literally all of human history. This is this post that I was referring to, and I think it is so unbelievably powerful, with Jacob referring to mental health as a Christian. He has this cute little swipe through that says, "You are not alone. As someone who has struggled with depression and anxiety as a believer, I know how it feels to be ashamed and alone in this battle, but the Bible makes it clear you are not alone." And then I'm going to go through the caption here because I think it is really powerful. "Job cursed the day that he was born and wished that he had been stillborn." You can find that in Job chapter 3. Abraham called himself dust from the ground in Genesis. Jonah wanted to die when a worm ate his plant in Jonah chapter 4. Elijah literally asked God to kill him in 1 Kings. King David, one minute he's dancing before the ark, 2 Samuel, and the next minute he's saying to God, "Why have you forsaken me?" which actually is mirrored in Jesus's final conversations that he was having on the cross in Psalm 22. This would be called high highs and low lows. Paul said that he despaired of life in 2 Corinthians. Even Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane said, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death." And in the Garden of Gethsemane, he was so overcome with anxiety, with worry, and with overwhelming feelings that Jesus himself started sweating to the point of when he bled. He was so nervous and so overcome with anxiety and fear that he started bleeding out of his pores. Jesus Christ felt this way. So we know that this is part of the human experience and the human condition. And I think we often like to ask ourselves, why do bad things happen to good people? Why am I so overwhelmed with the negativity of the world? It is so easy to lose faith in our brokenness, in the sin that we are constantly surrounded by, and in all of the evil that determines our day-to-day life. But the truth is, our souls are getting closer and closer to the story of God's chosen people throughout all of human history, and getting towards a part of our story, our individual story and the human story, that we will no longer have any worry. We will no longer have any sadness. We will have no anxiety, no depression, no suicidation, or anything else someday in heaven. I know that was a bit of a heavy subject, but I think it's hugely important because almost every single one of us either A, have had this experience ourselves and have struggled with mental health crises in the past, or B, have known people who have chosen to take their own life, and your own community has been deeply impacted by that. This Suicide Prevention Month, this September, I think it's really powerful to find people and organizations that can help give us tangible solutions for how we can make a difference on this issue in our own families, our own schools, our own communities, and Stay Here is a phenomenal example of how to do that. I dropped a link to buy Jacob's book, which talks about how to do this from a faith-based perspective, on Amazon in the live chat during our conversation, and the link for where you can find Stay Here as an organization. I saw a few people ask how your church might be able to partner with him and his organization, but he's a phenomenal person, truly is very selfless, and was such a pleasure to get to talk to him today. Interestingly, though, switching gears a little bit, this is not the only way that we see life become overtly devalued in human society. Certainly, it's one of the most overt ways, and as we see suicide become more and more normal, especially within our generation, and more people of influence and power ignore the mental health crisis that we are going through, it's an easy one to fixate on, but it's not an existence in isolation as the main way or the only way that society is devaluing life. We've spent a lot of time talking about the weird dystopian progression of creating families, or lack thereof, on the stream in the last few months. And I hate to be the person to say I told you so, but let's be honest, I really don't hate to be the person to say I told you so, because I told you so. They are actually having a conversation this week at the FDA which determines what medicine and what food is safe for human consumption, whether or not they are going to be given the green light to start working on, you guessed it, artificial wombs. This is an artificial womb for an animal, obviously, but they're looking into this week finally to discuss the future of artificial wombs for human infants. Over the last few months, I have seen just the most bizarre turn of events and bizarre series of headlines escalating faster and faster and faster and faster over the last few months than ever before about erasing the role of parents, erasing the role of women especially, and replacing humanity with machines. And we've seen that in a million different ways play out. The AI conference with the AI humanoid robots, for example, at the UN a few months ago. On the stream, we've talked about ecto-life, the proposal from one scientist in Germany saying that we should be growing babies in these artificial pod facilities. Don't tell me what happens if the power goes out, by the way, because I don't even want to know. A few months ago, we talked about Conception, which is a new biotech startup company in San Francisco that is generating new human egg cells, not from women, but growing them from stem cells in laboratories. Last week, we unpacked a story where The Guardian broke the story that scientists have created a human-like embryo, not human-like embryo that's 14 days old entirely from stem cells. Not a sperm cell involved, not an egg cell involved, not a placenta involved, nothing involved other than stem cells, which is so unbelievably sickening and horrifying, and obviously accompanies the cultural shift that we've seen in the last 2 years or so, erasing women, calling women birthing people or people who menstruate or people with a uterus in clinical medical settings, making it against the rules or even illegal to call women mothers, and instead everybody has to say birthing person to accommodate for everyone else. We don't even call breastfeeding anymore. We call it chest feeding, and certain doctors are saying that we should be delivering hormone therapy to give people who cannot breastfeed, who cannot lactate, the ability to lactate. Don't even want to know what kind of nutritional value is provided in that chest milk, and even purporting that taxpayers should be funding uterus transplants so that people who are not women can gestate and birth a baby. So really crazy, weird, dystopian stuff. But all of the conspiracy theory has been at some point we probably will be rolling out an artificial womb for human beings, because if we can just grow babies in a facility, if we can just grow babies in a laboratory, then we'll see what role family even needs to have in society moving forward. And I'll say up front, this is important for like fact checking purposes. As of today, the FDA and all these people talking about this aren't wanting to replace all human gestation this way. They say that this can aid in human gestation, that it has really positive benefits, and that might be true. But as somebody who studied biomedical sciences and was prepared to be a doctor throughout all of my undergraduate and graduate experience in school, I find it really troubling that we are lacking the opportunity to talk about bioethics. And to talk about bioethics, you have to discuss the holistic 360-degree perspective of any potential new medical technology. Could there absolutely be positive benefits to creating artificial wombs to supplement gestation in a premature baby, for example, which we'll talk about here in just a second? Yes, absolutely, there could be positive benefits to something like that. But do the negative potential implications and the dystopian future that this is likely to create far outweigh the possible positive medical outcomes? Yes, 100,000% in my opinion. That's just my opinion, so take that as you will. And I'm not here to say that I am the expert on artificial wombs in no way, shape, or form. This is simply cultural commentary about something that's going on. But I find this a really troubling shift in the world of medical technology and in the world of devaluing life, right? Not just devaluing the life of the mom who is supposed to be growing this baby in her womb, who has a deep, intimate, physical connection with her child as her child is growing to be birthed into the world, but also for the baby, because a lot of times we're seeing these conversations about artificial womb facilities or like the ecto-life pods in reference to altering the baby's genetic code so that we can make them look a certain way, or we can help them avoid having certain birth defects or certain diagnoses like spina bifida or heart defects or whatever, which is all fine, I guess, when you say it that way, until you realize that's just straight up eugenics. That's what that is. Altering a baby's genetic code while they are growing in utero because you want it to have certain characteristics and not want to have other certain characteristics is quite literally just eugenics. And the fact that nobody is talking about this from a bioethical standpoint and perspective is deeply terrifying to me as somebody who is a scientist by training and by education, and who keeps up with a lot of these stories and often thinks about the negative dystopian bioethical implications moving forward. So again, they're not saying they want this to replace human pregnancy right now. We've certainly seen other stories of biotechnology and new medical technology that had one particular reason for existence that doesn't exist anymore. Now we use it for a completely different intention, completely different purpose than what was originally intended. So I think that easily could be applied here. This is from CNN Health, and they published this on Tuesday, that FDA advisors this week are discussing the future of artificial wombs for human infants. We have this for animals, but we don't yet have this for humans on the market. And I really like something that Total Package just said in our YouTube chat. The real point of all of this is if we allow it. We don't have to allow this, right? We can speak up now before this is ever approved and say, yeah, nope, unsubscribe, not happening on our watch, not something we are ever going to be okay with in American society. No, not never. We could be speaking up about this. Are we? No. Do I see really any posts about this? No, I just see crickets. And I think sadly people are either afraid that this is happening, or they're unwilling to admit that this is happening, or they're just completely unaware that this is happening, which is why independent content creation and live streams like this really do matter to get the information out there. To tell you a little bit about what's going on, independent advisors to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration are meeting this week to discuss the regulations, ethics, and possibilities of creating an artificial womb to increase the chances that extremely premature babies would survive and without long-term health problems. I will say, when you read this article at first, you think to yourself, oh yeah, that sounds great. That sounds really positive. I think there's a lot of positive implications that could come from something like this. This sounds like a pro-life or very in support of life position to take. But I want you to be asking yourself in the back of your head, what other implications might exist for this technology while we are reading the article. Although no such device has ever been tested in humans. Wow, ads really know how to get me. That candle looks really cool. Side note. Although no such device has ever been tested in humans, similar ones have been used in a handful of cases to successfully develop animals. On Tuesday, during the first day of their 2-day meeting, the advisors considered what human trials could look like. An artificial womb for humans would be a scientific advance that could help solve a major health problem. Preterm births are the #1 killer of children under 5, other than abortion, according to the World Health Organization. Because a baby's lungs and brain finish developing late in pregnancy, a child born prematurely risks a lifetime of health problems, including trouble breathing, GI issues, vision, hearing problems, developmental delays, and even cerebral palsy. Prematurity has become a growing problem in the United States. The number of preterm births increased from 10.1% in 2020 to 10.5% in 2021. That actually is a pretty big jump if you think about how many babies that means. They say the issue disproportionately affects African American women who give birth prematurely at a 50% higher rate than white and Hispanic people. An artificial womb, they say, is not designed to replace a pregnant person. Thank you, CNN, for your very acute knowledge of where babies come from. They say it could not be used from conception until birth. For now, I suppose, but there are other companies developing conception of embryos literally entirely from stem cells. Entirely from stem cells. No eggs, no sperm, no womb, no placenta, no nothing. So if we're developing that on one side of the coin on biotechnology, and we're developing an artificial womb on the other side of the coin for biotechnology, that statement of this could never be used from conception until birth seems to be short-lived, in my opinion, if the science continues to evolve and be invested in. Rather, it could be used to help a small number of infants born before 28 weeks of pregnancy, which is considered extreme prematurity. Less than 1% of babies are born born this early. And just for the record, if you're thinking about this from the lens of the pro-life movement, 28 weeks is well past what we would call the age of viability, meaning if a baby is born very prematurely, it has the potential to survive. It has all of its organs, it has all of its neural development needed to survive outside of the womb. The earliest a baby's ever been born and survived in America, I believe, quote me if I'm wrong, has been 20 weeks now. I think that was a new record set a few months ago or last year. I can't remember. You guys probably know better than me, but it used to be 21 weeks. Now it's down to 20 weeks. And as our technology and medical intervention improves, that number gets lower and lower and lower. So they're saying if a baby is born that early, theoretically, we could just put it in this fake womb to continue acting like it's gestating instead of actually be born and help it survive. The earlier an infant is born, the greater the risk of death, they say. For example, only about 30% of infants born at 22 weeks survive, and just under 56% survive birth at 23 weeks, according to a 2022 study. The artificial womb could help the baby develop further through those vital final stages when the lung and brain are developing. Like a person's womb, it would deliver oxygen, nutrients, and hormones. Premature babies already have to stay in the NICU where they get special attention and special medical intervention. And NICUs are regularly successful in getting premature babies through the first part of their lives, but then they say there's always a danger of infection, and this artificial womb would help babies later on in their life have less issues with breathing, with brain development or disability, etc. So again, I'll say for the zillionth time, could this technology possibly have massive positive implications? Yes, absolutely, 100,000%. However, do I foresee incredibly negative, dystopian, terrifying implications for rolling out technology of artificial wombs? Yes. Far more than I really see the positive benefits. Becca just asked on Locals, did CNN just say a baby in the womb is an infant and not a clump of cells? Wow, we love to see it, don't we? If it fits the narrative and it fits the ability of what they want to accomplish, yeah, they will gladly admit that that is a baby and not a clump of cells. Someone is definitely going to get fired over there, says Tito. Awkward for that CNN employee, and we have your back. You are not alone. Come join us on the stream. It's very fun times. But ultimately, I'm really terrified to see this conversation continue to happen. The artificial womb concept, I first started noticing probably about a year and a half ago, and I kept seeing videos or news stories start to go really viral that this was a far off dream, that we would never have the technology to do this today, but might be something worth considering. Because what about women who can't naturally conceive or can't naturally carry a child? What about people who cannot conceive a child because of their sexual identity? What about people who don't really want to grow a child and they just want to pay somebody else to do it, or they don't have access to a surrogate and they still want someone else to grow their child? It starts as this really positive, altruistic, we're going to help you through this difficult challenge in your life that seems insurmountable, but you want to be a parent, so you absolutely can be a parent, and we're going to make that happen against all odds for you. And it very quickly spirals out of control down this slippery slope to, well, we'll just edit the baby's genome while it's developing to make sure that it doesn't have any disabilities, and to make sure that it looks the way that you want it to look, and to make sure that it's the gender that you want it to be, and to make sure that it's never going to struggle for the rest of its life. And if it doesn't really pass our inspections, we'll just unplug it and create a new one. It is terrifying to me how quickly this conversation goes from genuinely coming from a place of empathy and wanting to help people to spiral completely out of control into straight up complete dystopian eugenics. Somebody put on my Instagram video of this earlier today that they've lost track of the number of movies, dystopian movies and books, that we've started to treat as instruction manuals for society in our continued dystopian devaluance of life. What used to be just 1984 has now turned into 1984 and The Giver and Brave New World and The Clone Wars and literally anything that you can possibly imagine, because we have treated these dystopian books, movies, TV shows, ideas, etc., almost as an instruction manual for society in 2023. I actually just the other day watched the movie adaptation of The Giver for the first time. I'd never seen the movie adaptation. I've read the book a zillion times. I know we've talked about it a lot lately, and was forced to read it in 5th grade. Thank goodness that my school had the foresight to make us read this in 5th grade. But I watched the movie adaptation of this the other day. And they still had birthing people. They had the assigned birth mothers of the community, basically surrogates for everybody else in the community. But they had not yet arrived at artificial pods. But it did really invoke this image of complete 100% control over the human race. And it's sold to people as a really positive thing, right? We have more control. People won't get sick as much. People will be more equipped to handle the world. Like, this is all a really positive thing. And I think that's exactly what they're doing with this technology, right? Nitty Witty says, so they will sell all of the positive aspects now while subtly working towards a biotechnology dystopia. Yeah, pretty much. They are selling us on the positive potential implications of technology like this now, so that we'll all be on board with it and say, great, this sounds amazing, this is going to help so many people, and then almost instantaneously we're going to turn around and develop all of the wrong things using that technology we thought was going to be amazing. Biotechnology and bioethics, in essence, centers around the question of just because you can, should you? And I am of the opinion, again, this is just my opinion, I'm not pretending to be the expert on artificial wombs. I am of the opinion that the potential dystopian negative side effects on humanity from artificial wombs far, far outweighs the potential medical positive implications, the potential help that we can give to people. And it is a really dangerous game for us to continue playing when we play God over life. When we start growing babies from stem cells, when we start saying women don't need to carry pregnancies and they shouldn't because it's so oppressive and it's not a good thing at all, when in reality it's a beautiful thing and should absolutely be celebrated and is a unique, wonderful, God-given experience for women that we have demonized for the last several years. We seem to be doing so more and more and more. And I shudder to think about the implications that this might have on the family if the family can continue to exist at all. We've already seen massive calls to abolish the nuclear family. We've already seen a complete departure from the institution of marriage in our society. But if these children are all our children instead of individual families' children, like we often hear from our Vice President of the United States or even from the President of the United States and his press secretary, it's a really scary reality to know that our government is on the brink of approving artificial womb facilities to grow people, or even theoretically, I'm just spitballing here, to grow almost people entirely from stem cells. The Clone Wars are coming, is all I am saying. And it is a really scary reality to understand the amount of power and jurisdiction over humanity we might be willingly handing into the lap of our very corrupt, very evil, very on the wrong path politicians and the most powerful people in society, because we shallowly think this is an altruistic way to help people, because we only can see the positive implications instead of thinking holistically about the 360-degree perspective of so many of these bioethical questions today. It's not even just the artificial pods, but we often think about this about lab-grown meats, or they're now doing lab-grown fruit even, and we could think of example by example by example. It sounds insane, and I know that it sounds insane for us to even be talking about this, because this actually sounds like something out of an animated Star Wars TV show or out of 1984 or out of The Giver, but this has slowly become our reality because people are remaining willfully ignorant about this. They are choosing to ignore it, or they're choosing to think holistically and critically about these issues, or they're just completely unaware because our media and the most powerful voices in society are refusing to discuss it. Do not allow yourself to be one of the willfully ignorant. Do not allow yourself and the people in your community to be one of the blissfully unaware individuals, knowledge is power, and our ability to continue standing up for truth, our ability to continue supporting one another, our ability to continue nurturing the family unit, the individual, the God-created individual, and the beauty of womanhood and masculinity alike is so unbelievably important in 2023 and beyond. We are under attack from all sides, and that's a really scary reality for us to think about. That includes both literally in our society, but also spiritually, as we think back to the conversation we had in the first hour of the stream related to suicide rates continuing to climb in America. We're kind of fighting this never-ending battle, and we're fighting that in our own heads. We're fighting that in the spiritual plane against Satan, who has jurisdiction over this world, and his army, which is absolutely 100% real, make no mistake about it. And we fight the actual physical manifestations of those things in the literal physical world as well. So I want you to know, if it seems overwhelming, that's okay, because it is. It's very, very overwhelming, and it's a crazy reality that we are continuing to live through. But to end things on a really positive note before we move over for our Q&A over to locals for about half an hour, I want you to know you are not alone. You are far more powerful to make a difference than you realize, both for yourself in your own individual life or in your community as well. But your ability to find faith in something bigger than our brokenness, your ability to find hope and light at the end of the tunnel surrounded by all of this crazy dystopian nonsense, and your ability to embrace a little bit of courage every single day by telling the truth in any capacity that you possibly can on social media, to your family, over a coffee date, in your high school classroom, at your church, or anywhere else, quite literally could be the determination between a dystopian future or a joyful, prosperous, happy future for the next generation. I don't say that lightly, because every single day we are inching closer and closer and closer to the edge, and it's desperately time for us to figure out what we want the future to look like and bring it to fruition. I know so many courageous people, just like all of you watching this right now, who choose to embrace that courage to tell the truth every single day. But I want you to share this stream with somebody else, or share that call to action with somebody else today. That is your homework, because we can't fight this fight alone. We have to be willing to bring the value of humanity back as an entire culture, not just in America, but in Western civilization. And we have to be willing to share the truth with the entire world that is rejecting that very concept. Together, I know that we can do that, but we certainly can't do that alone or without linking arms with one another. So today, your homework is to go encourage someone. Two things: go encourage somebody to embrace that same courage and share the same message. And number two, if you know someone in your life who is struggling and really needs some help or a shoulder to lean on with anxiety or depression or even suicide, please direct them towards Stay Here. They are such a phenomenal organization, and I'm so inspired by the work that they are doing. Again, you can check them out at stayhere.live, and Jacob's book is also a great resource to give to people in your own life who might be struggling and feeling isolated and alone as well. You matter. That sounds so shallow and cliche, I know, but it's true. You matter, because you were designed with intention by the creator of the whole universe, who looked around at every single star in the sky, who looked around at every single blade of grass and every single cute corgi running around with their fluffy butts on this planet, and every single community on Earth and in the universe. And he knew that the world needed one of you too. It is worth it to stay here. And I know just how dark anxiety and depression and suicidation and all of the mental health issues that we deal with can get. I know I've been there, and I know many people in the community have been there as well. But your gifts, your talents, your passions, what you are naturally gifted with are so desperately needed as our world continues to rage this war between goodness and morality and truth, and the darkness that's often driving this dystopian future that seems to be coming to fruition with every passing day. You are needed in this fight. You are appreciated in this fight, and you matter. So it's time for all of us to encourage the people in our own life to embrace real community, not just on here, go outside and touch grass, but to remind one another that we should stay here. All right, you guys, we are going to switch gears and jump over to locals. I'm dropping the link right now in our live chat for where you can join us for our Q&A for the next 30 minutes or so. Just as a reminder, we have some new locals content coming to you tonight as well. And tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, at the end of the stream, I am making a humongo announcement that I've been waiting over a year to tell you, which I'm super excited about. So please, 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 if you were already planning on joining us tomorrow, please do so at 3 p.m. Eastern as we are leaving the stream today, and hopefully see you guys over on locals. Do me a huge favor, and if you haven't already, smash that follow or subscribe button no matter where you are watching. We are on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Getter, and on locals, and the more you guys continue to hit follow or subscribe to watch these streams and to share them with others, the more we can make these conversations reach people who desperately need to hear them the most. Be good people, tell the truth. I love you guys so much. Locals, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, and Getter. We will be back with you guys for a very special, fun announcement tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. Bye, guys.